Well, season 8 of the Big 3 tips off June 14th in Chicago, around 2 weeks away. With that in mind, we're talking this week with the league's co-founders, Ice Cube and Jeff Kwatinetz. Gentlemen, appreciate you both coming on to talk about the business of hoops.
Anytime.
Glad to be here.
You know, starting and maintaining a league is one of the toughest things to do in sports business. And you are on the brink of season 8, big time accomplishment. Was there a moment along the way where either of you were like, oh, wait, this shit is finally working? Or did you always have the confidence that it was going to be a success?
We've always had the confidence that it was going to be successful. You know, there's been shaky moments, but there's been moments where we can see it. You know, if you can see it, you can achieve it. I don't think we ever had moments where we didn't see the success. You know, we've had moments where, you know, we've had to, you know, bridge, you know, whatever gap from where we were to the next successful moment. And, you know, we had to figure those moments out. But, you know, when we first started this and started to talk about it in 2015 and 2016, we, you know, envisioned this being a league that could stand the test of time. You know, it was a league that had, you know, a lot of potential to grow on the public and, you know, become taken seriously. You know, that's the biggest hump is to get the world to, you know, see it as the best league. And these are the best 3-on-3 players in the world. And so, you know, those were the obstacles, but we saw if we could get over those obstacles, we had a sport that could last.
Jeff, how'd you feel?
I mean, it's been a roller coaster ride, but you know, Cube and I, we've worked together for a long time, and once we so-called burn the ships, there's no choice but success. We had a global pandemic along the way. You know, we had a lot of people trying to compete with us and stop us. We always believed we know we have a good concept. You know, on day one, we had to make the bet that 3-on-3, which was pretty much looked at as a playground sport, that we could professionalize it. And when we looked at what was out there already, we just thought that the game, the structure of the game, the rules, the way it was presented did not do it service. And, you know, we always believed that if we set it up right, that not only fans would love it, but the players would love it. I remember an early moment when I was talking to a mentor of mine, a great New York Knick, Bill Bradley, and he was telling me, you'll know in 5 minutes if it's going to succeed. If the guys are playing defense and they're really invested defensively, then the sport's going to be unbelievable. And I remember right away in that first game at Barclay, those guys were playing hard defense. I turned to Cube and I was like, we got something here.
Nice. So a big transition for the league this season, a city-based model, 8 franchises, major markets. Big 3 is going to be taking its game to each of those markets as well as a couple of other spots. Jeff, how does this model help you grow the media exposure, media profile of the Big 3?
It invests people in geographic reasons to not just watch the games casually, but to make it appointment viewing. You know, in a lot of the big media markets, there are so many home teams. So even though, you know, we have people from LA and Chicago and Miami who love the Big 3 and we're tuning into the Big 3, now there's an additional reason for them not to just watch it when, you know, they happen to be home and they're like, oh man, Big 3, let me watch it. Now they plan for it and schedule for it.
How has your approach with local media changed with this city model? Are you doing more things out in communities, inviting local media a little more than you maybe have done in the past?
I mean, we've always been local media friendly. You know, whatever city we were playing in, you know, we would invite local media out. We would do a lot of local media. Now that we're planted in these cities, we expect that to ramp up. You know, we have, before the season events and in our cities. So it's pretty cool to see the local media actually embrace the teams, and we expect that to continue and grow. And we also have programs like the Young Three. We would usually be in town one day, and the kids would have a great time when the Big Three was there, but then we were going to another city. Now being planted, we can expand those programs. Uh, Hopefully, have kids playing 3-on-3 basketball year round. Hopefully, they want to grow up to be Big Three players one day. So, that's our vision, and that's a good reason to be planted in these cities.
Yeah, having owners too who are connected to the cities was really important to us. When we first, were introducing the sport, we had to travel everywhere because we had to show the country and even the world that this sport was a great sport. We had to sell the entire sport fan base. Now that people accept it as a great, credible sport, now we can unlock the advantages of being in cities. So when we went out to find owners, we wanted to find owners that really had deep community roots and assets and they could take advantage of in those cities to help.
Well, you've now been with CBS for a while now as your main national media partner. Do you continue to be happy with the windows that you're getting during these spring and summer months there on CBS?
Yeah, we happy. We expect as the sport continues to grow, popularity, we may be able to get later windows available to us. Um, but we're very happy with CBS. We're working with, their A-list producers, directors, same guys who do the Super Bowl, they come do the Big Three, when it's time. So it's great to have the A team working on a league like this. I think our league is presented, as classy as any league that's out there when it comes to CBS presentation. So we're very happy.
Yeah, the production value is great. They're great to work with. It's our sixth season on CBS, and the proof is in the pudding. I mean, our ratings are great. We're doing better numbers than MLS or NHL are doing, in the regular season. Of course, they do better in the
I have to
playoffs.
say,
But
if you see MLS numbers, you got to send those my way. I haven't even seen them on Apple TV. They don't even put out the numbers yet.
CBS is just the history with sports. The things that they have. It's just great, and they're great partners.
You also have a secondary deal starting this season with Vice TV. So I'm curious, how did that deal come together, and what can we expect from Vice as a media partner?
I mean, Vice is going to play the games that aren't on CBS. So there's 14 games that are not on CBS. So they'll be playing those. They'll also be rerunning games and doing some other shoulder programming. But we actually were talking to them before last season, and that network's gone through different changes, and they decided to make a big commitment to sports, and we were the biggest thing that was available out there, and we like the association with irreverent and young. Our fan base is young and very diverse, and we think that Vice really fits that well.
All right, a couple other quick hitters to wrap things up. Halftime performances, a big part of the Big Three experience. Cube, can we expect you out there this summer?
I always have no problem with grabbing the mic, entertaining the crowd. So you definitely can expect me to jump up there and get down. But we're gonna invite some of my friends, some of the guys that I really admire in the game to come out and entertain the home crowd. So it's gonna be pretty fun this summer for sure.
We're gonna have a lot of surprises. It's gonna be a really great year for entertainment at the Big Three.
Yeah.
Well, well, Cube, I also got to follow it up. Tell me about the World Series performance.
Man, it was a dream come true as a Dodger fan. And I've been a fan, since I was knee high to a horsefly. And so seeing them, go against the Yankees, which, I saw, when I was real young, Reggie Jackson put our lights out with 3 home runs. Then I seen us come back in 81 and win it. And didn't think I was going to ever see, this classic series again. And then bam, I'm invited to perform for game 2. The night before, you got Freddie Freeman hitting a grand slam to win the game. And so, the crowd was electric. And then I was a nice surprise to really, kind of just propel them and propel LA. And like I said, dream come true for a Dodger fan for sure.
Well, I also want to ask you about this new Big 3 docuseries coming this summer. Chronicles not just the road to the 2025 title game, but also some past seasons. What was the genesis of that, and where will viewers be able to catch it?
Well, the genesis of it was this incredible journey to, bring this sport to credibility. It's really about what we went through and how we got from there to here. I think it's an incredible story. Every time, something, crazy happens, I always tell Jeff, that's chapter 37 in the book. We know, what we've done has been epic, and people should see it. People should see it go down. People should see how it happened and what we had to go through to really get to this point. It's an epic story.
I mean, you guys see every year there's tons of leagues that are started. People told Cube and I we were nuts when we started it. They were like, it doesn't matter how good your idea is. Starting a league is impossible. It took UFC 14 years to make money, and, we come from the entertainment field and we had some great players and, we knew we could deliver a great product, but a little ignorance was good because maybe if we had known how virtually impossible it is, we wouldn't have done it. But, we've worked through stuff. It is crazy what we've gone through and what we've had to do. But ultimately, what keeps us going and what I think will be seen in the docuseries is that the players really want to play. They compete hard. They love it. They want to win. And that's what the fans feel. It's hard when certain other sports, the regular season doesn't mean so much. There's so many games. I think that our approach, is much more aligned with, the NFL where games have stakes. Everybody shows up and gives 100%. Being able to get behind the scenes and see that, we think is really going to connect with fans.
And the cherry on top that, these are our heroes. We're fans of basketball and football and, many of the sports that's out there. And so to see how much this does for the mental health of these great athletes, it was like a cherry on top to be able to, make their life better with a league like this. So it's doing more than meets the eye when it comes to helping people, helping athletes. Some athletes don't get a chance to end their career on their own terms. A league like the Big 3, if you could still play at this level, which is pro level 3-on-3. If you could play at this level, you got a place in the Big 3. So it's a great league.
Back in 2019, you two, along with some others, were eyeing a bid for the 21 regional sports networks that eventually were sold by Disney to Sinclair. Seeing how that business has really unfolded, we talk a lot about a lot on this podcast, just the regional sports business just being so chaotic. Do you feel any sense of relief that you didn't end up getting that bid?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I do think that our strategy really was a great strategy. And we may have made it work, but we did a lot of presentations to a lot of private equity and it's, financial institutions. And with all the questions they asked, no one ever said, well, what happens if all of sports stop? And ironically, we had actually modeled out these strikes and work stoppages. But I don't know what we would have said if someone said, well, what if all the sports stopped for 6 or 9 months? We dodged a bullet, not because our plan wasn't great, but because all sports stopped.
The pandemic is, you don't want to be stuck holding those cards when the pandemic hit.
I'll say.
It also changed when the RSNs didn't have that content. I think that it accelerated cord cutting much more than the figures were showing it was going to go. And it was always a bet on margins, and percentages. And that really set those guys up in a really tough place.
I know you love all your children, and Cube, I'm going to start with you. Who's a Big 3 player people need to watch?
Oh, man. I think you need to watch Elijah Stewart. I think you need to watch Isaiah Briscoe. You need to watch Kevin Murphy. These aren't, the big superstar names like Dwight Howard and Mike Beasley and Joe Johnson, but these guys can play. They can definitely play, at the highest level. Jeremy Pargo's another guy that can play at the highest level. Not household names yet, but keep watching them. They'll definitely be your fan favorites for sure.
Who do you got, Jeff? Who's your favorite?
I mean, just, it's interesting because our game obviously has a lot of overlap with traditional basketball, but it is different. And some, NBA stars or college stars who are role players aren't able to play in our league. And then we have other guys, who maybe didn't, shine in the NBA who are just absolute stars. I think Lance Stevenson, his game is built for this league. We love personalities and people who are passionate. So
be entertaining for sure.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, Lance Stevenson, nothing if not entertainment. Loved watching him play. Continue to love watching him play.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get you guys out of here on this. There's some big names potentially retiring from the NBA in the coming years. Do you all plan on having conversations with the likes of LeBron, KD, or Steph?
We would love to, but, you got to still have the hunger and passion to play at the pro level. We don't just want your name, we want your game. So we feel really, if you really are serious, we're not hard to find. We don't mind having those conversations, but we here, they know we here. They know what we do. They know it's not called the little three. It's called the Big 3. So here we are.
Well, the Octagons and the Clutches of the world, I'm sure, are listening. You guys know where to find them. The Big 3 co-founders, Ice Cube and Jeff Kwatinetz, thank you for joining the SBJ Sports Media Podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you.